With Universal Great Britain all but confirmed, I want to talk through what we could expect to experience once the park finally opens. At this time, we are still awaiting official confirmation from Universal that they're going to go ahead with building this world-class theme park. However, local and central government have offered strong backing, and with the pending removal of protections for species blocking construction, it looks like the barriers for completion will be lifted, allowing Universal to finally touch down in the UK. So what do we know so far? In 2023, Universal revealed they had purchased a 476 plot of land just south of Bedford. Throughout 2024, they conducted feasibility and due diligence work, discussed the project with stakeholders, and held a period of public engagement to share their proposals with local communities. During this stage, they released a document detailing their plans for the development of the area. The first stage of construction will create the theme park, a city walk style area for entertainment and dining, a hotel, and a surface level car park of around 4,200 spaces. There would also be considerable development of the local infrastructure, with the constructions of a Wixham's railway station to the east, the delivery of a new station on the east-west rail on the other side of the resort, dedicated slip roads from the A421 to accommodate a majority of road traffic, a new railway bridge, and general improvements and upgrades to the active travel network, which includes walking and bike paths. Just last week, we have found out that Universal have trademarked the term Universal Studios for use in the UK under Class 41, which is for use in amusement, theme and water park services. And though this doesn't really confirm it is happening, enthusiasts can't be stopped from acting like Universal have just announced that it's going to open next year. It's easy to see why Universal chose this site. Being sandwiched between two rail lines would allow guests to take the train and be dropped off directly in front of the park entrance. This would also help please locals, as around 35 to 40% of guests are expected to arrive by train, which would ease local traffic on the roads. Furthermore, a very high percentage of the UK lives in close proximity to the resort, with the metropolitan areas of London, Birmingham, Nottingham, Peterborough and Cambridge all being within 2 hours of the resort, and Sheffield, Manchester, Liverpool and Leeds being within 3 hours. It also has 8 major airports within 2 hours, no environmental limitations, and a flat topography, which are all important for a large-scale theme park resort. In comparison to the 476 acres in Bedford, the Universal Studios Orlando Resort covers 541 acres, meaning it's entirely plausible to expect something similar in the UK. Even though we are 65 acres short, a lot of the Orlando Resort is covered in water, and they have many more hotels than is planned for the UK resort. Therefore, I think it's safe to assume that there's more than enough space for a second theme park to eventually be built alongside the first, creating a full 2-park resort. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. We're here to discuss the first park, so let's take a look at the plans and how much land has been set aside for each section. The hotel with the dining and entertainment area has been allocated just 20 acres, with the car park needing 45. The park and park areas have been allocated around 125 acres according to these plans, which is actually 24 acres bigger than Islands of Adventure. Imagine if the UK actually got something like that. It would be groundbreaking to get a park like Islands of Adventure instead of a more studio-style park. To be honest, I feel like the time of the behind-the-scenes studio park is kind of over. Looking at the route Universal has taken in other countries, the Studios Park has always come first. However, that doesn't prove that's what we're getting in the UK. If Epic is super successful, why wouldn't they repeat that idea for the next park? A central area with 4 well-themed lands accessible through portals allows for easy immersive landscapes, as you can't see anything outside the land you're in. There is just one issue that might put a dampener on that idea though, which is the frequently damp weather of the UK. It may be that they need to build a park with a lot more indoor attractions, especially if they want it to be a 365 park. Nevertheless, even if they do stick to the studio style park, at least it has evolved over time. Just look at the most recently opened Universal Studios in Beijing. It's much more immersive than Universal Studios Florida, and something I would be a lot more excited for. Kung Fu Panda Land of Awesomeness looks extremely atmospheric, and Jurassic World Isla Nublar looks beautifully themed, lush and tropical, with one of the best themed rides in the entire world. I would be absolutely over the moon if the UK park is on a similar level of that to Beijing. Amidst all of this speculation, there's one thing I do know, and that's that I need a Jurassic Park land in Universal Great Britain. Love it or hate it, we know that theme parks nowadays are very IP forward. I mean, just look at Disney. They're ripping out opening day attractions to slot in even more IP in their flagship park. And if you cast an eye at Epic, Celestial Park, the central hub, is an original theme based on stars, planets and the universe, but all the other lands are IPs. You have Super Nintendo World, Dark Universe, Harry Potter and How to Train Your Dragon. If we follow the same format, we can expect Universal Great Britain to have a majority of its lands themed to IP, but what could they be? There are so many options that Universal has rights to put in their parks. If you look at what is already established at their current parks, you have 2 standout contenders, Jurassic Park and Harry Potter. Both of these properties are massive, easily bringing in the biggest crowds, selling the most merch, being given top tier attractions by Universal. It's clear that the general public loves magic and dinosaurs, and Universal loves how successful they are. Now, could these both end up in the UK? Harry Potter may surprisingly be a no. Though it might be Universal's most successful theme park edition ever, it's unclear whether the licensing from Warner Bros. To Universal for use in theme parks would extend to the UK. Warner Bros. Already has the wildly popular Harry Potter Studio store just 45 minutes away from the proposed site, so they may keep a tight hand on their magic monopoly in the UK. As for Jurassic Park, this I am definitely more positive about. They're still pumping out Jurassic World movies, and the parks work as really strong advertisements for what's in cinemas. There also aren't any tricky licensing agreements to work around. The only stick in the mud would be that Universal don't want to bring over anything that's currently in Orlando, as there are a huge number of Brits that make their way over to the parks each year. This sadly means we probably won't be getting Velocicoaster. However, Jurassic World Adventure in Beijing could be on the cards. I could see this land being a main draw for the UK park, sitting on the back of a lake or a water feature as they so often position it, with a high thrill e-ticket attraction as its header. Looking at IP that already exists on a smaller scale at Universal Parks, you have Jaws, Fast and Furious, E.T., Back to the Future and Transformers. All of these IP enjoy a variety of successes, with some crowd drawers, some unappreciated classics and some that are kind of neither. E.T., for example, belongs at studios in Orlando and should never be removed. However, that doesn't mean I see it finding its way to the UK. It may be a classic, but I can't see Universal putting a film that's over 4 decades old into a brand new theme park. And to be honest, I think the same goes for both Jaws and Back to the Future. Fast and Furious is infamous for its awful representation at the Orlando parks. Supercharged is an absolute joke of an attraction, and genuinely one of the worst wastes of space in the whole resort. However, if you fly over to Hollywood, you can see Fast and Furious's redemption in the form of the almost complete Intamin coaster, Hollywood Drift. The elements, shaping and setting of this coaster make it look set to rival Velocicoaster, and that's even without considering the fact that the train cars will turn. Could Fast and Furious make a speedy entrance to the UK scene? I'm unsure. Now, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of these films. I think I've only watched 1 or 2, but regardless of how I feel, they do continue to perform at the box office, and Universal are content to continue cashing out on this seemingly undying franchise. However, that doesn't mean I think they will appear in the UK park. Hollywood Drift will be incredible, but that's mostly because Universal and Intamin had to be creative with the landscape and layout of the Hollywood park. They had to squeeze it in between the upper and lower lots, with dynamic arches over the escalators and swooping turns up and down the hill. If you remove this coaster, Fast and Furious have never had a good attraction, and the IP is pretty hard to build an immersive land around. I'm not really sure how you could even start to do it, so for me, it's out. Transformers, I think, is in a similar position. Their films have not been as strong at the box office, but their existing attractions at the park are of a far higher quality. Transformers the Ride is a great dark ride found at every single Universal park except Japan, and then Beijing also has the Decepticoaster, which is an Incredible Hulk clone, and a Teacups ride called Bumblebee Boogie. Transformers being the best represented at the most recent Universal park to open does surprise me, but I can't deny that the land looks sick, and it's much easier to theme a land to space robots than to guys driving cars. Therefore, I think I could see Transformers having a small space in the UK park, maybe with another clone of Transformers the Ride. I feel that every theme park has to have some sort of futuristic or technological themed land, and this would tick that box. If at this point in the video you think I'm making bonkers choices, feel free to let me know down in the comments, but leave a like on your way down there. Universal Monsters is an interesting theme to consider. This is an IP that for the past 2 decades, only The Mummy had any representation, and though it is fantastically represented with 3 wicked indoor roller coasters across the current parks, no other monster received an attraction aside from HHN Scare Mazes. That is, until now. Dark Universe opens with Epic Universe in May and looks to be a delightfully dismal land featuring a max spinning coaster and a highly themed dark ride with some of the best animatronics I have ever seen. Dracula, Frankenstein and the Wolfman are confirmed to be in this land, with the Invisible Man, Gilman and the Bride of Frankenstein to be rumoured to feature in the rides or as meet and greets. I know this land will be immensely successful when it opens. The public have an insatiable thirst for horror, and Universal is delivering strong with Dark Universe. In the UK, we are already famous for our pre-existing dark-themed attractions, plus we go wild for scare mazes in October. I feel like every year more and more scare events pop up in the UK, and everyone I go to seems to be packed. Universal will be bonkers not to have their monsters lead a land in the UK. I can see it being similar to Dark Universe with a small roller coaster and an expansive story-driven dark ride. The land could even be entirely indoors to simulate night while also providing cover from the British weather. Imagine how wicked it would be to walk through the facade of a decrepit manor and have the whole land open up inside on a grand and spooky scale. Speaking of wicked, yes, what about the immensely popular movie that just came out with a Broadway production that's been running for over 2 decades based on the pop culture monolith that is The Wizard of Oz? So far, Wicked has made $723 million, since its release on the 22nd of November last year. It is already Universal's 18th best performing movie ever, and I expect it to easily crack the top 15. Now you may be thinking, why wouldn't they involve Wicked in the UK park? And I think there's just one reason: Warner Bros. They're back again with conflicting IP. Warner Bros have just opened their Wizard of Oz precinct at Movie World in Australia to some mixed reviews. Some areas look incredible, where others look lackluster and under-themed. Now, this isn't an issue with licensing, as Warner Bros owns the Wizard of Oz and Universal owns Wicked, both based in the same universe but actually different IPs. However, there may be some in Universal worried about the clashing of two similar properties in the theme park space. But then again, if Universal and Warner Bros go head to head here, we know who's coming out on top. Universal would smash it out the park with a Wicked themed land. Just picture the bright and exciting colours of the Emerald City, Munchkinland or Shiz University. It also lends itself delightfully to creative ride ideas, merchandise and meet and greets. I mean, who wouldn't want to wear Elphaba's hat whilst defying gravity on some new attraction, or when meeting Glinda? This could even be a magical replacement for Harry Potter if we're doomed to miss that fantastical IP. With Wicked Part 2 on its way and its stamp on pop culture clearly made, I would put some money down on Wicked joining Jurassic Park, Transformers and Universal Monsters at Universal Great Britain. Now, every theme park needs a family-focused area, and for this, Universal have an absolute ton of choices. They've just revamped their Kids Zone area in Studios Orlando into a DreamWorks land featuring Shrek, the Trolls and Kung Fu Panda. Other notable DreamWorks IPs are How to Train Your Dragon, which as I've mentioned is coming to Epic Universe in May, and Madagascar, which already exists in Singapore. Universal also own Illumination, most notably the home of Minions, with these yellow guys featuring in most of Universal's parks across the globe. But Illumination also made The Secret Life of Pets, which has a great dark ride in Hollywood, and the Super Mario movie. Mario already has 2 dedicated lands, with a third opening at Epic, but technically it's not the same as the movie. The Super Nintendo worlds star the video game characters, not the animated film versions. It's been hugely successful Universal partnering with Nintendo. Mario is an absolute monolith of an IP, firmly cemented in pop culture, and it brings with it easy merchandise sales and fun attraction opportunities. But why stop at Mario? The original plans for the Super Nintendo land included Zelda and Kirby, but there may also be an opportunity to do Animal Crossing, Splatoon, or even the Wii universe. There are so many options from Nintendo, each with their own dedicated fan base, and personally, Nintendo excites me more than DreamWorks or Illumination. If Universal have added Mario to Epic, why stop at 3? They could easily bring it to the UK and make it 4. But then again, maybe they wouldn't for the exact same reason that why they wouldn't replicate Velocicoaster. They would want to limit the crossover of the UK and Orlando parks. Therefore, the space could be open for Zelda, which I think would be beautifully immersive, maybe supported by another couple of Nintendo's IPs like Kirby and Animal Crossing. My other preference would be How to Train Your Dragon, as I've always enjoyed the books and films since I was a kid. Though, again, the crossover with Epic may mean that they don't want to do that one. If I had to pick one, I think the most likely option would be a DreamWorks land, maybe similar to one in Orlando combined with Far Far Away in Singapore. Something whimsy and entertaining with attractions for all the family. We're at 5 lands now. Epic Universe will have 5, Islands of Adventure has 8, though Lost Continent and Skull Island are small, and then Beijing has 6 or 7 depending on if you count Waterworld. I think we need one more here to make it 6 unique lands, and as you can see we are still missing an entry area. Universal's entry areas tend to not have as many attractions and host more shops and dining options as well as guest services. In their existing parks, pretty much all of them are themed to Hollywood. However, I don't think that theme is actually as popular in the UK as it is in Asia. Plus, Islands and Epic both have unique central/entry lands with Portaventure and Celestial Park. For Universal Britain, I would really like to see a UK themed land for the entry. This is their opportunity to do something original and unique, representing British culture and history. Given that the site was previously a brickworks, I think they could honour that with an industrial theme, maybe leaning more into steampunk if they wanted it to be more fantastical. I can picture large moving machinery, ropes and pulleys, towering chimneys and steam rising from the floor, before it then gives way to a vista across the water. I have heard others bat around the ideas of British IPs like James Bond or Doctor Who, but again I think the licensing for those will be complex, plus my ideas are better anyways. You can clearly see at this point that I've taken strong inspiration from Islands and Beijing, with an entry land leading into a more circular layout. And you may think that's uninspired, but I think if it's not broke, don't fix it. The additional lot of space I discussed as a potential second park at the start of the video could be used in the meantime as an extra space for events, housing temporary structures. Halloween gets bigger and bigger in the UK each year. It really is a growing market, and Universal would be silly to not bring some sort of Halloween Horror Night to the UK park. Access to those external mazes would be available through the Monsters Land, with others being contained within the park boundary. In Bedford, the sun sets 2 hours early at the end of October than Orlando, allowing for more spooky vibes and night rides. Then, on the flip side, with the UK offering noticeably later summer nights that could stay open till 11 or 12, offering an extended day of rides and awesome atmosphere as the sun slowly sets. What do you think of my land choices and my layout? I think it's a pretty good layout, and these 6 lands will create a world-class park set to rival even Universal's best previous work. If only they would come out and confirm it at some point this year, we can start to get really excited. If you have enjoyed the video, please do leave a like and consider subscribing. I will continue to dive deep into the world of Universal Great Britain as the news develops. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you in the next one.